Welcome everybody to the Phocas Rebates webinar. It's a pleasure to have you on with us, and today's webinar is presented by Jason Birch and Joel Edick from Phocas. They're going to talk about all things rebates. So Joel, it's all yours. Please take it away.
Thank you, Gary. Hi everyone, my name is Joel Edick. I am a business development executive here at Phocas, and I am joined by Jason Birch, our VP of Global Solutions. And like Gary mentioned, today we will be talking and showing you Phocas Rebates. So a few notable items before we get started. We do have a chat feature available. So if you have any questions that come up during the webinar, please use the chat. And we have a designated Q&A at the end of the webinar where we can go back and answer all the questions that you have. As Gary mentioned, this webinar will be recorded, so we will be sending it to everyone who is registered. We have to give a shout out and a special thanks to Gary and everyone at TUG. And at the end of the webinar, we do have a survey. If you can, we would appreciate it if you could fill it out. That way, when we host future webinars, we can take into consideration all that feedback that you give us to help make these webinars better and more informative for you guys. So for today's agenda, obviously we'll be talking about Phocas Rebates. This is a brand new solution that we're offering here at Phocas, and the goal of today's webinar is just to get you acclimated with the tool, show it to you, and give you some real life use cases that you can use at your business. So the motivation behind rebates really comes from a lot of the customers and everyone we talk to. Obviously, rebates are a very important aspect of your business. So we've taken all that feedback that we've heard from our clients and crafted this solution to be a useful tool for your business. It's worth noting that this is a standalone product, so we hope that you're using our entire suite of products here at Phocas, but if you are using another business intelligence tool or a couple of tools to help your reporting and your dashboarding at your business, you can buy Phocas Rebates as a separate tool. So this session is going to cover Phocas at a glance, how rebates can be a challenge, and how our solution can help. So just to give you a little bit more background on Phocas, we were founded in 1999. We have thousands of users across the United States, the UK, and Australia. A big chunk of those clients are Infor TUG members. Our solutions have been built on 18 years of experience, and we primarily focus on the manufacturing, distribution, and retail sectors. Our solution is a good place for your customer product and financial data. You can host it, or we can host it for you in the cloud, or it's available for you guys to host on-premise. Phocas is a web-based solution, so you can use it on any computer, tablet, or cell phone that has access to a web browser. We have a fast implementation, and we're very proud of our 98% customer retention. So now we're going to go into why rebates are a challenge. I'm going to hand it off to Jason Birch, who'll be running the demo for us this afternoon.
Wonderful. Thank you, Joel. And thanks, again, I'll just echo what Joel said. Thanks to Gary and the team, and to everyone that joined. We appreciate the chance to get in front of you today and share what we're doing. We appreciate the support we get from the TUG group, and look forward to seeing many of you at TUG Connect next year. Okay, so as Joel said, Phocas Rebates is a pretty new tool for us, a pretty new offering. It came about because of feedback that we got from lots of our customers, that they were finding managing rebates a challenge. And rebates could be one of two things. It could be rebates that are payable or rebates that are receivable. And the feedback we received was that people are using Phocas, an analysis tool, to get an understanding of what they're spending with their vendors or what their customers are buying from them. And they can analyze on a product by product or product line basis, how many units are being sold or bought, how much is being spent on those products. But then, even once they've done that analysis, there's an awful lot of manual work that goes on to try and calculate what rebates are owed to their customers or are owed to them by their suppliers. So out of that, Phocas Rebates was born. So we spent quite a lot of time gathering requirements. We actually had a purely desktop-based version of Phocas Rebates that we ran and offered for a while in Europe and Australia. And based upon the feedback we got from that tool being used, we actually developed a web-based version that would link in nicely and integrate nicely with our new web offering. And that's what we're going to be showing today. So what I wanted to share with you is just some of that feedback we got from our customers, why they found rebates to be a problem, and then I'll share how we've addressed those issues. So the first bit of feedback we got, one of the biggest, is that managing rebates within a business is a manual process. Even if you've got something like Phocas that helps you get to the granular level detail of what's being sold or purchased, it's still a big manual process to go through and calculate, apply rebate rules, work out whether or not a rebate was triggered, whether a certain threshold was passed, and if it was, what effect that had on the rebate that's going to be paid out. Quite often people are doing this in Excel spreadsheets. It can be quite often a combination of not just the reports that are being produced and dropped into Excel, but also some complex calculations and sometimes even some judgment calls as to whether or not something should or shouldn't be claimed or paid out. So a very manual process. As a result, it can be very time consuming. Quite a lot of our customers tell us that they will only process rebates quarterly because they don't have the bandwidth to do it every month. Absolutely no way of keeping on top of that rebates position during a month to see where things stand. So it's time consuming. The number of days to complete, it could take 2, 3, 4 days worth of manual effort to get that rebate position calculated and presented either back to the vendors or given to the finance team to cut checks for customers and pay out those rebates. As I said, often only done quarterly or even annually in some places. In some cases, as a result, it's very difficult to kind of manage your business and steer your business in the right direction if you don't have a true picture of what the profit margin is, the actual profit margin in the business is. Another piece of feedback that we got is that rebates processing and calculation can be quite inconsistent. The analogy that had been shared with me quite a few times is that many chefs spoil the broth. So you because there's so much manual work going on, because it's so labor intensive to calculate these rebates, and quite often you'll have different buyers responsible for different vendors in the rebates process and the buying process. It may be done differently for each vendor, differently by each buyer. So you can end up with a completely bespoke rebate set of rules and a completely bespoke rebate process for each vendor that they interact with. Now, obviously, the more inconsistencies there are, the more different ways of doing things, the more chances there are for mistakes. And those mistakes, those complex rules, those complex processes can very often lead to missed revenue. I've had many discussions over the last sort of 3 or 4 or 5 months talking about rebates and the launch and so on with customers who have said, we know we leave money on the table. We know we don't claim everything that we should from our vendors. We just don't know what we've left on the table. And some customers have had made some progress just using Phocas to analyze the business and a bit more visibility of what's going on has allowed them to claim $10, $20, maybe even $50,000 worth of additional rebates from their vendors. However, it's not a standard process. It's not an easy process to go through. It's not a quick process to go through managing, calculating, and processing those rebates. As a result, it's never going to be as efficient as it can be. It's going to take up time and resources. You're going to leave money on the table. We believe there's a better way. So what we came up with, Phocas Rebates to the rescue, is a standardized way of capturing and measuring rebates through a web-based control panel. Managing rebates centrally and giving visibility of those rebates rules and the rebate calculation outputs gives you greater insight into the business. It allows you to strike better deals with your vendors. So one of the things that having a standard way of capturing rebates does for you is it allows you, first of all, to maybe drive the conversation with your vendors as to how you would like the vendor rebate program to work. But it also gives you the ability to try out a particular proposed rebate program, apply it to last year's purchases, and see what it would have done for you. So you actually have better insight into what a proposed change would mean to your business, and as a result, drive a deal through with your vendors that's better for you. Because it's consistent, because it's not a manual process, it's an application-driven process, you're going to save yourselves time, both in terms of the amount of time, man hours or person hours that are spent doing it, but also in the timeliness of having the results through. So rather than doing it once a quarter because it takes forever, you're doing it once a month. You're going to gain efficiencies. You're going to be able to potentially do it more often. Look at it every single month. Look at it during the month to see how your profitability is looking based upon what's happened so far. You can also improve that process, the whole process management, because you have a central place for storing your rebate rules, because you have one place to go to view them and amend them and update them. It's much easier to control the whole process. It's not held in 15 different spreadsheets on 10 people's machines. It's on one application, globally visible by anybody that you want to see that, and locked down. The last thing is, because Phocas Rebates, the tool for capturing and updating and maintaining those rebate rules, ties in very, very closely to the Phocas analysis tool. You can do really deep dive analysis as to what's going on and how things are affecting your business. So you're getting the power of a rebate rule capturing and calculation engine combined with the analysis features of the Phocas application itself. So all of those together should equal a much better way of managing the rebate process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into the application now and do a very quick, a very brief overview of how we've set things up, how the application works. What I would say is this is not designed to be touch every aspect of the product, try out every single possible rebate rule that could be captured and so on. This is supposed to be an introduction to the application and if you like, a scene setter. If anybody on the call today is interested in a deeper dive, maybe talking through some of the specific rebate scenarios that they have within their business, we'd be more than happy to have a one-on-one session and run through it with you. If you're an existing Phocas customer, then just contact the customer success team, your account managers, and set up with them. If you aren't currently using Phocas, there will be contact details up at the end of this webinar. You just reach out to us and we can organize a one-on-one session. I'm just going to take a quick pause there just in case anybody's been asking questions as we go through. And I'll just kind of defer to Joel. Anybody asked any questions yet?
Yes, we have one question from Josh, just asking again if this PowerPoint will be distributed. And yes, at the end of the webinar, we are recording this and we will send it out to everyone who registered.
Wonderful. Let me go into rebates. So as we said earlier on, it is a web-based solution. So everything that's happening here is happening within a web browser. The great thing about that is that it's accessible wherever you are. So there may be times when, for example, your buyers that are at a trade show, a meeting with suppliers, and are having a discussion around rebates. Because this is web-based, they can access it on the road. They can access it at a trade show, and not only look at the rules that have been set up, but also look at the analysis side of things as well. So I'm just going to sign in. And as I first go into rebates, I'm presented with a list of the projects that I have access to. So just to set the scene, the way we're managing within Phocas Rebates the projects, this would just basically relate to, for example, if you receive rebates from your suppliers, but if you also pay out rebates to your customers, you would have potentially two different projects with different sets of rules and so on. So it's just a way of ring fencing those sets of rules. Just as we're going through this, bear in mind, this is a logic engine. So it's looking at, for example, volumes or sales figures for a particular product line, for a particular vendor, or for a particular customer. And it's then taking those sales or purchases and then applying some kind of a coefficient to say, we get 1% back on this, we get 5% back on this, we get a one-off payment of this. As a result, some of our customers have actually started to use this to calculate their sales reps' commissions. So just bear that in mind. You may well have a project for receivables and payables, but you may also have another one for sales reps' commission. And as I said in one of the earlier slides, you may have one project set up just to test run a proposed new rebate deal with a supplier. So you could actually just do some test ones in there just to see what they work out as. Okay. So each one of these projects is a separate set of rules for rebates. I'm just going to go in and take a look at this one, this payable one. And what I'll do is I'll just give a quick walk through the way it's set up. Now, what I'm not going to do is go through every single possible scenario, but I'll explain on the higher level what can be done. So as you can see here, we have whether or not this particular rule is active, what type of rule is it a payable or receivable. We've got descriptions, we've got what it's based upon and who it's being paid to or received from. You'll also notice though that there's a hyperlink, so these are the name is actually a link through to the rule itself. So if I wanted to look at this particular rule here, what I'm essentially looking at is a payable rebate for a particular vendor. It's calculated monthly. It's valid from a particular date. If it's open-ended, it's just left blank. You can see who created it when it was last modified. So you've got that audit trail of what's going on. It's not an Excel spreadsheet where anybody can come in and change a cell or a calculation. It's locked down, it's audited, and you can see what's going on. In terms of the setup, you can restrict this to any given dimensions. If you think if you're a Phocas user today, if you think of dimensions, they can be product classes, they can be product groups, they can be individual products. It could be a customer, a location, a warehouse, a vendor. You can choose to lock this down to any given slice of your activity. So in this case, we've locked it down to just be activity for a particular type of product for a particular vendor. What we've got whenever we process this single rule, this one we're in at the moment, it's going to go off and it's going to say, I'm going to look at what happened in the previous month. I'm going to look at the activity. I'm going to see if that activity triggered any of these rules here. So we've got 0 to 1,000 triggers a 1% rebate, 1,000 to 2,000 triggers a 2%, and so on. Okay, you have the ability within here to decide whether or not going into a new threshold retrospectively applies that rebate to all previous transactions, or whether it just applies to any ones going forward. You have the ability to work out whether to decide whether it's applied pro rata across those. This is just an absolute calculation. It's just a percentage, but you also have the ability to set up other types of rebates. So you could actually have a percentage rebate, a one-off spiff. You can have, if you like, cascading or waterfall rebates, where a rebate rule for one product rolls up into the rebate rule or supersedes the rebate rule for the overall product group. So you have lots and lots of control over setting those rebates up. Now we've just got one there for one particular customer. We have hundreds and hundreds set up here. So part of the implementation process for implementing Phocas Rebates is to go through and map all of your existing rebate rules into the product. So that's a one-off setup. Then going forward, it's just a case of maintaining those. So typically on a yearly basis, you will go back in and review all of the rebates and make sure that they're still all valid and they still match the rebate rules that you have with your customers or with your vendors. But if something changes during the year, if you have a seasonal special, or if a vendor comes to you with a particular offer, they can be added on the fly during the year and triggered to run from a particular date to another date. So I'll just drop in here now. I'll pick another one just to show you another type of calculation here. So in this case, last time we were looking at sales dollars. Now we're looking at rebates based upon quantity of units sold. And rather than being a percentage rebate, it's an absolute figure per unit, or an absolute figure for hitting a particular threshold. So rather than being 1% of the value sold, it's $1 for when you hit 1,000. It's $5 when you hit 20,000, and so on. So we've, as I said, we've been working with an awful lot of our customers. We've implemented this with quite a few here in North America now, quite a lot more globally. And I'm not saying we haven't come across a rebate rule that we can't handle, but there's very few that we found that we couldn't manage one way. One of the ones that came up, I was speaking to a customer just yesterday. They were saying they struggled with, they have quarterly rebates and annual rebates, and the quarterly rebates is based upon the gross purchase figure, but the annual rebate is based upon the gross figure less the rebate that's already been applied from the quarterly rebates. So it's based upon two different measures, and they said they struggle with that because it can get quite complex and people can double count or not double count and overclaim or underclaim. Phocas can handle all of those types of scenarios. It may not be a simple one rule setup. There may be a little bit of layering, but Phocas can handle that. And as I said before, the great thing about Phocas is it's locked in, it's done one way, it's consistent, and it's visible for everyone in the business. Okay. So once you've created those, the next thing is just to go through and on a regular basis, you would run the calculation, and it would go through and it would run each one of these calculations. It would look at the transaction dates. It would look at the transactions that are relevant. It would work out what the transaction amounts were, what rebate was due, either from a percentage or from a fixed amount, and then give you the total rebates due for the time period. It would write those rebates back to each individual transaction, and then the way that this works is it then you can basically create an extract that would drop all of the transactions out with all of the rebates that were applied, and you can use that as a basis to make claims against your vendors or pay out to your customers. What you can also do, though, and this is probably where it's even more powerful, is you can feed that transactional information into a Phocas analysis database. And at that point, what you've got the ability to do is really start to drive and manage the business. So creating them the rules in the rebates tool itself, but then coming out and taking a look at analyzing those rebates in Phocas. So what we're looking at here, for those of you who haven't seen Phocas before, this is a Phocas dashboard. And this is actually showing me these are actually payable rebates, but it's exactly the same principle. We're looking here at a series of customers. We're looking at the product groups that we sell. We can see the total rebates that were paid in the time period selected. We can see the total rebates that are predicted. So this is basically looking at rebates that have already been posted and ones that are yet to be posted. We can see the sales and the profit before and after rebates. We can also then see that presented graphically. We can see a breakdown of the rebates by type of product that we're selling, breakdown of rebate by customer, and so on. So lots and lots of information there and available for a CFO or a buyer to take a look at. Now the great thing, because it's Phocas, because it's an interactive dashboard, we can drill down on anything that we want to know more about. So for example, if I wanted to know more about lights and lamps, I can focus in on lights and lamps, and every single one of these measures, all of my total rebates before and after, profit before and after rebates and so on, all update for me. I can see all of the rebate rules that triggered a rebate for lights and lamps. Now likewise, I could clear that on product, and I could go in and say, I want to see what happened for a particular customer or a series of customers and see how they're behaving. Okay. And as I mentioned before, we're looking here at some kind of top-level figures, but we have produced the transactional information to say these are the rebates that were triggered, these are the customers, and so on. So all of this is based upon detailed data. So if I wanted to look at the total rebates here, I want to drill through on that and see that 86,000. I can drill through, I can see the $86,000 worth of posted rebates, but I can break that out by, for example, the products, and even drill through to the individual transactions that sit behind there, so I can actually get through to the detail of what was calculated. Okay. So the combination of a rebate, or if you like, a logic engine in the rebates tool, and the analysis portion of Phocas gives you not only the ability to capture and manage the calculation side of things, it also gives you the ability to then leverage that to drive your decision making in the business in a better way. So we've got customers, again, who have let us know that being able to see margin before and margin after rebates, seeing perhaps where rebate rules are about to be triggered or have just been triggered, may change their buying pattern to make them more profitable. So they could, seeing a rebate rule has been triggered, may mid-month may trigger some additional purchases to take advantage of the increased rebate percentage for the month. Okay. So that's a very quick introduction to rebates. It's by no means designed to be, as I said, a full run through of the product and how it works. It's a if you like, a taster. If this looks like something that might be of interest to you as a business, I said, if you're an existing Phocas customer, reach out to your account manager. If you're not a Phocas customer yet, let's have a discussion about how we get you on board and get you leveraging not just the rebates solution, but also perhaps the analysis solution as well. With that, what I'll do is I'll just hand across to Joel and see if there are any questions.
Yeah, we have a few more questions that came in here, Jason. The first is from Josh again, and he asked, are you able to assign sales reps and allow them to view the rebates associated to them?
Absolutely. So this is an analysis. This is just analysis, Phocas analysis. If you give them a Phocas analysis login, you could share the rebates analysis database with them, lock it down to just their customers, and yeah, for sure. So in the same way as you could share sales activity for a particular customer with your sales reps that look after those customers, you can do the same with the rebates. Absolutely.
And then we have two questions from Chris. The first being, are you taking the data directly from the ERP, or is loading regular files to the Phocas system?
Excellent question. So Phocas will take a transactional feed. If someone's already using Phocas, it can utilize the same feed that's populating the Phocas sales database or the Phocas purchasing database. If they're not an existing Phocas user, we would be taking it from the ERP.
Great. And then again from Chris, how is margin properly reflected in the ERP, or is it not included rebate info? Or is it not including rebate info, excuse me?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what this is for is for Phocas is for generating the transactional information to say these are the rebates that have been triggered, these are the rebates that should be claimed. It's not writing back to the ERP. That would be part of that's the part of the process that's still going to be, if you like, manual to say we know we have to claim $20,000 from Osram Lighting. I've got all the details I need to be able to make that claim, but it would still need to be posted back into the ERP.
Awesome. And we just got another question again from Josh. And thank you for everyone who's been asking the questions. These have been great. Can you schedule auto emails for follow-up or reporting?
Yeah, absolutely. So within the Phocas analysis tool, you have the ability to create for any report or favorite that you've created. You have the ability to save that off and come back in and run it again and again manually, but also to subscribe to it and have it emailed out to you on a regular basis as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason. Any other questions?
Hey, Jason, this is Gary. I did have one of the attendees ask me before the webinar started if Phocas is integrated with A+, and along the same lines, is it integrated with fax?
For sure. So we've got fax customers, A+ customers, SHIMS customers, SX.e customers. Yeah, Phocas, I think we work at last count with something like 180 different ERPs. So we really don't mind what the ERP is. We've had a lot of success in the Infor vertical, obviously because of the type of customers that use Infor. They're a very good fit for us. But in terms of the ERP, we don't mind what it is. We just happen to probably have more SX.e customers. I guess probably because there are more SX.e customers than there are A+ would be my guess. But yes, no, A+ is no problem. SHIMS is no problem. Fax is no problem.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any further questions. I don't see anybody with their hand raised. So I want to thank you guys for the webinar. Rebates has always been a challenging issue, and I know that it's one that's perennial. It goes on all the time. So this is a great solution. And with no further questions, we can wrap it up. So thank you guys.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for attending, and thanks again, Gary, for facilitating. We really appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, guys.